Well, it's time to do business again. Welcome to Business Incorporated. On this episode of the program, here's what we have prepared for you. Inflation drops by more than 10% in Nigeria. That's after the rebasing of the numbers by the NBS. Some criticism against the IMF from Ethiopia. Bondholders are talking against their perception. New dawn in Egypt. BP is exploring gas onshore, offshore Egypt. Welcome to the program. I'm Ini John Mekwa. Let's do business. Starting from the global space, as usual, we can tell you that oil prices fell for a fourth day on expectations of that Russia-Ukraine deal that could ease sanctions on supply and concerns that global tariff wars could slow economic growth and weaken energy demand. Look at the numbers for this afternoon. Unlike what we had earlier today, we saw an inverse relationship. We see that it's now both in the green, 0.61% for Brent at $74.09. WTI is also green, very green, 1.36% at $70.25 a barrel. We know that United States President had said that he believes that they could meet very soon with Russian president to discuss ending the war in Ukraine. Already there's a meeting set in Saudi Arabia, and we hear the EU also trying to arrange some peace talks, as all trying to bring peace to Ukraine. And U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio had also said that Europe would be part of that peace deal when it comes to real negotiation. So we'll see how that goes in the coming days. And then we go to the metal space. Now look at what's going on there. US dollar weakened. I've been on a downtrend, I think, from Friday. Investors are awaiting details of US President's tariff plans. We know is on hold for Mexico and Canada. And this morning we talked about how Canada is counting possible loss to their companies if it eventually goes on. But see what's happening in the metal space. 0.83%. A weakened dollar excited metals market, $2,924.90. US gold is also up 0.6%, $2,916.80. Spot silver follows to 0.5%, $33.02, and platinum is down almost more than 0.5% there, 0.63% at $1,026.80. Palladium is also down at this time, 0.38%, $1,006.50. And you know that a weaker dollar makes bullion less expensive for other currency holders, so they're likely to get more demand. Talking about the dollar market, the metals market, because of the weakened dollar. Now back here in Nigeria, is it a sigh of relief that we would expect or not? Looking at the inflation number, the National Bureau of Statistics has finally released that number, rebased CPI, and the Statistician General of the Federation, Mr. Adeyemi Adeniro, announced that the Consumer Price Index, which measures the rate of change in prices of goods and commodities, has declined to 24.48%. That's year on year in January 2025. Was speaking during a briefing. Mr. Adeniro explains that urban inflation stood at 26.09%, while rural inflation was at 22.15%. He further explains that general prices of goods and services in the country declined compared to 34.80%. That's the number we had for December. But he also notes that that was the old template. Now this is the new template, and we've seen inflation drop by 10.32%. Still in Nigeria, the Director General of the Manufacturers Association of Nigeria, Mr. Segun Ajayi Kadri, has asked for cautious optimism after marginal increase in manufacturers' confidence for the fourth quarter of 2024. Mr. Ajayi Kadri was a guest on Business Morning earlier today, attributes this positive sentiment to increased demand during the festive season. He asked that sustained confidence can only be attained when purchasing power increases.
A persistent increase in the interest rate, that's very, very significant for us. And electricity costs remained high. There are even talks that it may go much higher. Insecurity, though it has abated in some ways, but still remains a major challenge affecting logistics. We've also had the fact that the expectations of manufacturers that the tax bills before the National Assembly will be speedily passed because of the positive impact it will have on business. That didn't happen towards the end of last year. And we continued to borrow at rates that are quite unsustainable. I mean, inflation also remained high. So all of those have not left us in any way better than the previous quarters in the year. So, like we said, you can only just attribute this uptick to the festive period. During the Yuletide, you naturally expect economic activities to be on the high. So, but all those macroeconomic factors that have constituted binding constraints to the growth of the manufacturing sector persisted.
And talking about manufacturers now, let's speak to an entrepreneur and find out what's the real state. First-hand information is what we're about to get, talking about those macroeconomic indices and how it's affecting them. Now we have inflation at 24%, heading to 15%, I guess, meeting up with the target of the federal government. Let's talk to Folajomi Adegbulu. He joins us, he's an entrepreneur and joins us virtually now. Folajomi, good afternoon and welcome to the program.
Good afternoon. Thank you so much.
Great. So and now it seems that we should be easing off now, since the NBS has told us that inflation is now down, even though it's because they're using a new methodology. I wonder how this comes across to you. Inflation is dropping in Nigeria.
Yes, while inflation is dropping, at least using the new methodology, we're still seeing very high cost of sort of living and high cost of almost everything that entrepreneurs would need to sort of do business, right? We're seeing high cost in data, which just recently changed in terms of just like MTN and sort of like the other brands changing sort of their pricing. We're seeing high cost in electricity, which hasn't changed much, and just general petrol prices, diesel costs is still very high, and sort of like being able to then do business on multiple levels is just high, right? And if that continues again, it's just going to continue to affect whether inflation, as it were, which is a major indication of what's going on, has potentially dropped.
Yeah, but I mean, high costs for manufacturers ends up as higher costs or prices for consumers. So you just push that off. You should be making more money, even though the value may not be as much as it should have been.
No, so I think the margins are actually going to shrink because we then have higher cost of inputs, right? Because outside of sort of like the other costs where I just mentioned, there's also the cost of sort of like employing people, and that also is a major cost and factor in sort of like then ensuring that you can provide goods and services. When those prices increase, there's a drop in sort of like purchasing power of the people, and they would often turn away from certain goods, which they can call luxurious, and then focus on certain goods. So while that might not affect some type of businesses, it definitely will affect majority of businesses across board, or majority of small, medium businesses, across board.
So what does this mean for you as an entrepreneur running a business in Nigeria with all these macroeconomic indices? You've talked about the high cost, that has come from different sides. What does it mean for you? How does it directly affect your production as an entrepreneur in the country?
I think it's difficult times, and it's sort of a phase that you need to use sort of like the lean model and lean strategies to then pass through. There's a lot of cost cutting that has to happen. There's a lot of looking into the intrinsic values of sort of like the company and intrinsic value of my business, for example, to then ensure that I'm not going above board, and ensuring that you can thrive, and then you can pass through this phase. I think, like you've mentioned, in terms of just like things that needs to get done. For me, I'm taking a very hard look at my cash flows, ensuring that those cash flows, are sustainable and allowing my business to thrive. Right. The other thing is definitely taking a look at different funding models and taking a look at alternative models to ensure that I can then have different different capital to ensure that I can move my business forward. Again, like I just said, it's difficult times. It's a phase that potentially, would have to ride away and would go away as sort of the economic starts to bounce back and things start to get better. And I'm very hopeful and optimistic as you were. But again, the things I'm doing, definitely taking a look at my cash flows, ensuring that I'm running my business a lot leaner. Taking a look at sort of the expenses that I would call luxurious or that I would call not sustainable, and then cutting them away. There are different models and different things that you're trying to do, and ensuring that we're empowering people to be more productive, using technology, for example, to ensure that we do more. Again, when in a time when technology is AI in particular is starting to become widespread and more used, and those are tools that definitely should empower and will drive businesses.
Hmm. Perhaps you could share some tips because I know there's the cost cutting aspect of it. And there's also the part that, well, I think well handled could be positive towards making entrepreneurs look inwards. I know you mentioned technology and then of course the cost cutting side of it, but also looking at perhaps domestic raw materials, domestic skills that could, cut the costs and eventually lead to better economy for Nigeria.
Yeah, again, things happen as they were in a relative slow pace. For the longest time, we've imported a lot of raw materials that we use, and for a lot of industries, even for sort of agriculture, that's also sort of imported. So it's going to be very difficult to then start to look inward when years, as it were, years and years of sort of maybe potentially not investing in the right set of things within the country, right inputs as it were, has cost us a lot in and around sort of like the inputs. But we're starting to see a lot of businesses going inward and doing things in and around Nigeria. And a lot of inputs actually are within our, reach now within, sort of the country, whether they are, sort of like foreign business in Nigeria who are providing these raw materials. And of course, that's a way to go about it, starting to then, stimulate and doing things, in terms of taking a look at agriculture and ensuring that we can then be a lot more productive, which can then drive prices down for relatively a lot of goods and services, right? And that's honestly, it's a way that we're going as well, taking a look and saying, there are a lot of now even technology tools that are provided by, sort of the tech industry in Nigeria that you can take a look at rather than buying one that is, sort of provided from an international organization of one that is potentially priced in dollars. You're looking at using more resources within the country. And I think there's also a need for us to sort of, amplify Nigerian businesses that are doing amazing things, Nigerian businesses that are providing these inputs across board that allow people to not just only think that sort of the problems that they have can be solved by international organizations, but also organizations within Nigeria and even Africa as a whole.
Hmm. So what about beyond funding and all of that? Talk about a lot of people are being, at least when I spoke to a lot of people in January, they were optimistic about 2025. The reforms are taking shape. The naira is, well, pretty much stable on a level. What do you see for small businesses in this year, 2025? The opportunities, the trends, perhaps some challenges also.
Yeah. Again, I definitely one of the ones who are like way more optimistic about sort of like the trend of sort of economic activities around Nigeria. Again, it's been a very tough, I think, couple of years, 2 years, 3 years, in terms of just like the uncertainties, the sort of inflation, rising costs, and things just sort of going up. Again, once there's stability and we expect that the government start to do sort of with a lot more financial power and with a lot of interventions, we can begin to see sort of more economic activity and seeing more sort of like people doing more things. I think that would definitely sort of like drive move things forward a bit. I'm very optimistic. I'm very as the way I'm just again excited to to move forward, excited to sort of like thrive within the economy. And again, there's like I mentioned, there are a couple of things that have been done, and again, I'm my projections and my forecast this year is to say we can sort of now move a little bit out of that cost cutting method into looking at things that then take us forward. Again, like I did mention, there's technology that I think will drive sort of our activities. There's also sort of like taking a look at sort of current raw materials and taking a look at the trend of stability across prices for even petrol, for example, which came as a shock when it jumped from 100 200 naira all the way up to like 1,000 naira. In terms of challenges that I'm facing, I think for example, and it's a long term challenge that I know a lot of small businesses like mine, we've always looked at, and sort of like the businesses that I actually also support. It's always about sort of funding. It's about sort of mentorship and coaching as well. I think there needs to be a drive as we move forward into sort of community based entrepreneurship where small medium businesses get support from each other and can sort of access peer group mentorship and peer group coaching. I think that'll be very important as we move forward as a country, right? There are a couple of people who are doing amazing things. They can then lend their hands into other businesses that need their support and then can grow them together. I think that's one of the things I'm also taking a look at is being part of sort of communities, being part of building and being part of communities that can sort of help me wave challenges, because entrepreneurship can be learned. Entrepreneurship is something that you need to have support from the different groups of people in and around you. In terms of other challenges outside of fundraising, of course, there's also the market and customer retention challenge. A lot of people just can't afford a lot of things. And I know, for a very long time, we've talked about poverty and talked about low income, and there's that continuous debate. And there's definitely a lot of people who've said, I have to, do other things with my money. I can't do that. But again, we're starting to see that there are a lot of programs by the government stimulating sort of economic activity, and we're hoping that that can sort of create more buoyancy and create more, culture of spending, as it were, to then allow people come out into the market and buy more goods and services that can then sort of create a spiral effect uh, of of good economic activity.
Yeah, well, a lot of things you have there up your sleeves, but I mean, when it comes to the networking, I wonder how much competition would allow, entrepreneurs to come together, especially when you're in the same line of business. But I mean, it's always better together, I guess, in some cases. Thank you so much for your time and your views. Folajomi Adegbulu for your time. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you so much. Really appreciate the time.
All right, now we're still staying around that, but we're looking at commodities at this time. I know earlier today, Ladi did speak with a manager from FDC, Financial Derivatives Company, about how prices are looking at. Let's pick up one of that. That's yam flour at this point, but I mean it's offshoots of what you have in yam. So whatever happened to yam will also happen to that. But I wonder how popular this has become to make the list of items that has gone up about 20% year on year from February 2024 to 2025. Perhaps it's become alternative or substitute to some other staple food. But let's have this conversation now with Ajibola Ayodeji. Ajibola Ayodeji is an analyst with Financial Derivatives Company. Hi, Ajibola. So, I mean, yam flour, I think, used to be known to a certain tribe, the Yoruba tribe. Has it become a general staple now for Nigerians?
Okay, good afternoon. Thanks for having me. It's not every Nigerian that eats yam flour, but it's major is the delicacy is common among the Yoruba people of the southwestern Nigeria. So it's a staple food for among the Yoruba people of the southwestern Nigeria, and it is majorly consumed among the white because because of the cultural preference they have for it, because of the cultural preference they have for the amala, or let me say yam flour, they tend to eat it even if there's a substitute that like wheat. We are saying that the price of wheat has come down because of the appreciation of exchange rate, because of the appreciation. So imported goods like wheat has reduced. However, the decrease in the price of wheat does not affect or might not significantly affect the demand for yam flour. Why? Because of the cultural preference of yam flour. We see that in many ceremonies, in many occasions, Yoruba people usually prefer, or is one of the main dish that is prepared in all these occasions, because they prefer it to other swallows that are being prepared. Thank you.
Yeah, so we know that Nigeria, again, we're talking about potential in producing yam, but we have hardly scratched the surface. But um, perhaps exports could be one conversation around yam flowers, anything like that that you have heard.
Okay, there can be, yes, yam flour can be exported, and it can be a source of foreign earning for Nigeria, because we see that many Nigerians, especially Africans, they are spread across all over the world. So all over the world, we have Africans all over the world. So usually we have to first of all talk about the problem that we have is as touching yam flour. The first problem is that Nigeria has the capacity of producing in large quantity. I mean yam now can produce yam in large quantity, and it was even said that Nigeria has this 70% of the global yam production is being done in Nigeria. That's one of the things. But then the production is being done on a subsistence level. And another thing is that 5% of the yam flour, 5% of this production is converted or is processed into yam flour, which if it's produced in commercial quantities can actually help Nigeria. And talking about what we can do in Nigeria to increase the production, one of the things I would say that we can do is that we can invest more in the processing and storage facility. Investment in storage and processing facility is very important, because to minimize the post-harvest loss of yam, because yam cannot stay for a long period of time, but when the process, it can stay for a longer period of time. That's one. Two is power, because even if this investment is made in machines that are used in producing all these things, in processing and in storage, there's need for power to power the machine to work and to produce in large quantity. So if those things are put in place, I believe that it can be a source of foreign earning for Nigeria if the investment are put in place.
All right, thank you so much. We've been talking about the potentials and, the need for investment. Obviously, we hope one day we will not have to talk about it. We will actually see it. Ajibola Ayodeji, analyst with Financial Derivatives Company.
Thanks for having me.
All right, now let's take a break now. When we come back, we'll head to the market and see what's happening right there here on Business Incorporated. Welcome back to watching Business Incorporated here on Channels Television. So what's happening in Africa now? British major BP has announced the start of production of natural gas and condensate from Raven's second development phase offshore of Egypt. The new wells are expected to produce approximately 220 billion cubic feet of gas and 7 million barrels of condensate. The project was safely executed ahead of schedule, allowing for an accelerated start of production. According to the BP regional president for Middle East and North Africa, Nada Zaki, the focus of the Raven Infills project is to fight natural decline and increase production while maximizing existing infrastructure to meet Egypt's domestic market demand at pace. Now, a committee of Ethiopia's bondholders say that the International Monetary Fund's latest report on the country contained flaws that artificially outline a solvency issue, a scenario that would require lenders to grant debt relief. The East African nation defaulted on its sole $1 billion bond in December 2023, and negotiations over restructuring the debt have been slow and not very friendly. Well, this criticism over the report is the latest disagreement between the creditor committee, the IMF, and Ethiopia over whether the country is facing a liquidity issue, meaning it might only need more time to pay, or a solvency issue, which could require debt write-downs known as haircuts. The conclusions of the report were artificially creating a solvency issue for Ethiopia, the committee says, adding that they also contained significant flaws. The World Bank is asking Zimbabwe to maintain its tight monetary policy stance and resist spending pressures to control inflation and ensure lasting exchange rate stability. Inflation in Zimbabwe is closely linked to movements in the exchange rate, making currency stability largely influenced by money supply levels, a crucial factor in maintaining economic equilibrium. According to World Bank, Zimbabwe experienced a significant surge in money supply at the beginning of 2024, but the introduction of the Zimbabwe gold currency in April successfully restored price stability. The country faces a tough balancing act in restraining expenditure due to competing national priorities and limited financial resources. Zimbabwe's economy continues to recover from years of Western sanctions, which restricted access to concessional funding and international credit lines. Zimbabwe experienced inflationary pressures in the first quarter of 2024, fueled by significant government spending on key infrastructure projects. This raised concerns of potential relapse into hyperinflation, similar to the 2008 crisis when inflation reached an estimated 500 billion %, eroding savings as well as pensions. The government of South Sudan, with support from African Development Bank and European Union, is set to launch a 5-year power project that will see Africa's youngest nation import a power plant from neighboring Uganda. This is about a 5-year project, assuming that there's peace along that corridor and there's no anticipation of any problems that could disrupt the implementation of this. The bank is mobilized enough resources in partnership with the EU to implement the project. Reports indicate that in terms of supply, energy generation, distribution, and cost, it costs about 0.42% kilowatts per hour, which is the average tariff that South Sudan is paying. When one looks at the region, it costs on average of about $0.10 to $0.12. Now, Egypt and Saudi Arabia, they've signed an executive plan which is aimed at enhancing cooperation in the field of energy efficiency. Under the executive plan, both countries will work together to establish a national energy efficiency program in Egypt, which will include drafting regulations and technical standards, capacity building, raising awareness, and fostering the development of energy service companies. The plan was signed by the two Egyptian ministries, Petroleum and Electricity, and Renewable Energy, as well as Saudi Arabia's Ministry of Energy, and it happened in Cairo. As part of the partnership, Egypt and Saudi Arabia will acknowledge and offer technical support in energy efficiency improvement, in addition to building human cadres through training, courses, and workshops. And the deal includes the development of energy services companies and promotion of infrastructure for energy efficiency and projects, along with facilitating supply and investment mechanisms in these projects. The Libyan Audit Bureau has authorized the distribution of family support grants for the fourth quarter of 2024 after completing a thorough review of Ministry of Social Affairs data. In official correspondence to the ministry's Wife and Children's Grants Department, the Bureau verified disbursements totaling $2.3 billion. That's about 1.15 Libyan dinars for the quarter. The comprehensive review examined beneficiary identification data, including national ID numbers, registration details, and dates of birth. The disbursement analysis shows that 25.774 individuals will receive single-month payments totaling $5.2 million, whilst 25,374 recipients are qualified for 2-month disbursements, which amounts to about $10.3 million. The largest group comprises 3.82 million beneficiaries, and they will receive 3-month payments totaling $2.29 billion. Let's head to Berlin now and see what's happening right there in Berlin. We have Lars now joining us. Hi, Lars. Good afternoon and welcome to the program.
Hello, Ini. How are you doing? Thanks for having me.
Good to have you, Lars. So the issue of the election, I think, is still topmost when we look at what's happening in Germany at this time. What's the latest, the preparations and all?
Well, yeah, you're absolutely right, Edie. The election coming up on Sunday is obviously the big topic, and there's just so much happening right now, including a TV debate that we just heard. And that helps people obviously make up their mind, as it usually is. Now, two important topics. One is migration, one is the economy, and of course we should talk a little bit about the latter. That is for most people currently the most important, considering that Germany is in a pretty rough spot. The country, of course, used to be the economic engine of Europe, whether it was cars or machines or parts, materials, chemicals, pharmaceuticals, you name it. Germany is an export-driven economy. We sold goods to the world, and made in Germany was such a quality seal that actually helped business here. And now those times are long gone. Germany just can't seem to find its way out of a recession with high energy prices. So everybody looking at that debate was wondering, what do the parties actually have to offer, specifically looking at energy. Now, the Christian conservatives, they are currently leading in the polls. They want to bring back nuclear energy to power Germany reliably. They're attacking the outgoing government for abandoning nuclear in times of crisis while focusing too much on renewables, which is obviously a great idea generally, but due to a lack of infrastructure, it just wasn't good enough for now, as we have all experienced. So CDU, more nuclear, the Social Democrats on the other side, and the Green Party, obviously, for more investment in renewables. As for the right-wing extremist AfD, they're for more use of gas and coal. They want more combustion engines on the road again, so they're a little bit like a German version of Trump.
Well, I can't help but laugh there last when you say the another version of the German version of Trump. Well, we know what Trump is doing to the world at this time. But I mean, I guess the peace talks when it comes to energy, which is a major one for Europe, the peace talks between Russia and Ukraine, hopefully that will make a change. But other than energy, I know migration is also an issue. What else are the candidates talking about?
Well, migration doesn't really play too much in it in that economic debate that we're mostly having. Obviously, the question over migration has been a long-term problem now in Germany, because the country is generally very open to migration, but we have long reached limits where things are just not working out well, can't be financed, are really hard to swallow for many people. So some change needs to be made there. But I found very interesting the other kinds of economic ideas that were going around. And you see that the parties are tackling these from different sides. For example, like I just mentioned a minute ago, that made in Germany level that we used to have, that is now for at least one party, the Social Democrats, the name of an investment program where they want to specifically subsidize corporate investments. The CDU, on the other side, preferring across the board lower taxes to spur investment. Seems to be much easier to organize, but it also doesn't look quite as targeted. Generally talking about taxes, by the way, it's clear that the Conservative Party's concept favors top earners, companies, upper management to a much stronger degree than lower and middle class, middle income Germans. The SPD and the Green Party, meanwhile, want to lower taxes at the bottom while raising them at the top. Of Of course, conservatives are saying that hurts investment. That's a bit like the trickle-down economic concept we also know from Republicans in the U.S., talking about Trump in the past year. Leave the rich with more money and it will be good for everyone. In reality, unfortunately, it has never really worked out that way.
All right, Lars, let's leave politics and all that for a bit and get to the markets. What are investors doing?
Yes, very interesting today. We had a very strong start into the day once again with the DAX in Frankfurt breaking yet another record. Now we're a little off, a little down in the red zone. And I do hear more and more people really wondering, is there an end in sight to this, I want to say, crazy rally that we've been seeing that does not at all reflect the economic reality that we've been living with in Germany. Now we have something interesting to look at, and I know that a lot of traders, a lot of investors are focusing on that. We see not only stocks rise tremendously for the last 2 or 3 weeks, but also, and especially today now, volatility is up, and that is seen as a warning sign by many. It is very rare that volatility goes up while shares are up too. And the last time it happened to the extent we are seeing this right now was actually in 2015, so 10 years ago. And that was followed by a rather drastic correction with markets losing some 24%. So who's to tell whether or not we're seeing something that dramatic again? But one thing, Ini, I can tell you, it is hard to find any market insiders able to justify right now the rally that we've been seeing, and that is going on in the morning hours as well. Right now, as I said, we're a little bit off these heights.
Yeah, interesting, Lars. But I guess any country will always have some, not predictable movements in the market when the election is close to the corner. I perhaps, that's also one thing that is happening, as we experienced it in Nigeria too. But thank you so much, Lars, for bringing that update to us.
Thank you, Ini.
All right, now talking about the market, let's find out what's happening in the crypto market. I know there's no election going on there. I don't expect to see volatility. Oh no, we've been having volatility in that market. That's in the crypto market, Ladi. No election, but you are in the red. You're so in the red.
How can you not expect volatility in the crypto market?
You don't have elections coming up. We have election coming up in Germany, so we see what's happening in the market. It's volatile. What's this, Ladi?
This is just market just trying to find
Valentine
direction.
is over.
Yeah, but it's still, the color is still here. It's still in the crypto market. Looking at coin 360 there. It's mostly red. On the board there, $95,825. And that's what Bitcoin's holding up to now, 0.4% down. Ethereum, that's down about 2%. XRP down 3%. So it's mostly the stable coins we see in the green here. Mostly when investors get, afraid in the crypto market, they try to run into stability with most of these stable coins right there. Let's look at the sentiments now. How are the investors feeling? They're still neutral, just like yesterday, but there's an improvement. No, it's not an improvement, actually. It's 47 points now. It's below 50, so it's still neutral, tending towards fear at this point. Let's look at the top headlines in the market. Now we're seeing Binance CEOs denying sale rumors. So on social media, it's a buzz right now with Champagne Zhao, he's popularly known as CZ. They say there's rumors about the possible sale of the cryptocurrency exchange. That's one of the biggest exchanges in the world. So he's saying, no, they're not trying to sell Binance at this point. He says the claims are from some, speculators in the market. They're trying to, or competitors, trying to take over their market position. But who knows? Anything can happen in this space. Then there's a Trump meme coin airdrop, a company associated with the United States President Donald Trump. They announced an airdrop of Trump meme coins. So individuals who have, purchased Trump-based merchandise, including watches, fragrances, sneakers, or, digital collectible cards, are eligible to receive about 3 Trump tokens to qualify, for the airdrop. But I'm sure those that bought the Trump meme coin at the top are not smiling at this point. Then President Malay is denying promoting Libra. That's Argentina's president, Javier Milei, is facing fraud allegations over a cryptocurrency post he made about a meme coin. Everyone's launching meme coins at this point. So why don't you, as a country? All right, let's talk to Solomon Amunde now, financial market analyst. Hello, Solomon.
Afternoon, laddie.
Yeah, so much playing out right there in the market, and yeah, it's about the meme coins with countries, presidents, launching meme coins at this time. But it's all about Javier Milei now in Argentina. He's facing some pushback right now for promoting Libra. How are you seeing that?
Well, I mean, we're all seeing lots of meme coins now, and lots of prominent figures are launching meme coins. So I'm not surprised. In fact, we still see more of this happening. But yeah, about the accusation, I mean, it's well grounded because he actually did endorse it. He tweeted it. This meme coin wouldn't have taken off if he didn't tweet about it. So he tweeted it and people rushed and bought. And barely a few minutes after, the coin dumped by over 90%, which was really, really aggressive. And as we speak right now, we still have a wallet that pulled liquidity and is holding over $100 million. So that's what's causing lots of the controversy about $100 million being pulled from the liquidity and it's sitting on a particular wallet address. So lots of people are trying to figure out what's going on, and they are holding some persons that are the creators of the meme coins accountable for this.
Because, when you look at, most of these meme coins promoted by, some countries, some, celebrities, it seems even the people involved don't really know much about these meme coins. There seems to be some kind of group or company that says, you know what, let's launch a meme coin for this celebrity, and they'll just tweet about it or post it on their social media, on X, and the next thing, investors are buying it up.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we have professionals when it comes to crypto and blockchains. We have professionals. So most celebrities, 99.9% celebrities, they don't really know what's going on in the blockchain or crypto space. They are novice. They have no idea. So most times when they tweet this stuff, they have a team that they are working with, or they have someone that gives them a contract or a proposal. All they are doing is they are leveraging on their influence to give that project publicity. Most times they are unaware of the intentions of these people, if they are going to end up scamming people, if they have good intentions or bad intentions, you get. So this is what usually happens behind the scene. Well, while sometimes to these celebrities, they can still be very much aware of the plans that these guys have. You get. So it's a two-way stuff. Well, the sad part is newbies are actually always slaughtered when it comes to the meme coins play.
All right, so we've had, from celebrities, we've had Davido meme coin, we've had, popular celebrities in the US, we've had Trump, we've had Melania, and all of them seem to end up the same way. So is it safe to say, once it's a meme coin, just don't touch it? Maybe nobody's going to make money from meme coins anymore?
Well, technically speaking, meme coins are good and they can be done right, especially if it's a stealth launch. But most times where it ends up being bad is when you have lots of snipers and you have some of the team members that end up sniping the launch, and you have this huge influx of people buying into that meme coin. So thus, what it does is it causes the price to surge in a matter of minutes. About 5 minutes, you can see it rally by over 100,000%, from less than 100K market cap to over $500 million market cap. And you see a few snipers that don't have good intentions holding $6 million, $30 million. You get. Now, in cases like that, that meme coin is only a means to an end. It's only a matter of time, because those early snipers with negative intentions, they'll start selling and dumping, and it will obviously lead to the death of that meme coin. So that's what happens to most of the meme coins. But if that can be mitigated, then it can actually be used for something good. I mean, we have meme coins from 2021 that are still existing till date. You get. So it can actually be used for something good.
Right. So I guess with the meme coin mania we're seeing in the Solana ecosystem, it's the whales, taking advantage of the little fishes in the sea at this point. The big guy taking advantage of a small guy. That's what we're
Yeah,
seeing.
it's player versus player, and it's also teams versus teams. So it's extremely aggressive out there. For example, you look at the Libra meme, you have stories that the Millennia team, the people that launched the Millennia meme coin, they also did snipe it. And if they did snipe it, it wasn't obviously for good intention. It was to actually make some serious profit. And the only way they could have done that is because they had insider information as to when that meme coin was launching, and them sniping it so that they can make some good millions of dollars and exit. So these are like some of the issues that plague most of these meme coins that are being launched on Solana.
Right. And, talking about Solana, we've seen the price of Solana itself crash at this point. I guess it's mirroring what's playing out in its meme coin ecosystem.
Yeah, it's quite bad because we have multiple people, multiple teams launching hundreds and thousands of meme coins every day on Solana. And these days we have very professional tools that they make use of, and they get in and out, they snipe liquidity, and they pull some good millions of dollars out, and they're selling it. So the sell pressure on the Solana now, it's crazy. I mean, anyone can just jump into the Solana ecosystem with some good technical know-how, create some meme coins, do some publicity, pull out funds, and sell it from Solana to USDC or USDT. So there's huge sell pressure on Solana, and it's actually affecting the native token itself. I strongly believe these are like some of the things affecting Solana.
So is it safe to say that the whole meme coin craze, is it bad or good for Solana?
Well, initially it was very good because if you look at the Solana ecosystem, to be sincere, at least 70% of the trading volume daily is generated via meme coins. So if you actually eliminate meme coins from the Solana ecosystem, I mean, if you look at the numbers, it means the trading volume would drop by at least 70%. So you can say it's a two-way street. They actually did benefit aggressively from the meme coins trading that has been happening there for over a year. And it also helped the token to rally to a previous all-time high. And right now, it's now been counterproductive for the short term because I believe they'll find ways to mitigate this and also help reduce most of the risk. So I think it's a challenge that I feel Solana will be up to the task to see how they can solve this issue. It's just a matter of time.
All
so
right.
I don't think it's net negative.
Okay, we'll keep watching to see how it plays out and if people still continue loving most of these meme coins or believing that the meme coins will make you life-changing money. Thank you so much, Solomon Amunde, financial market analyst.
Thank you very much, Laddie.
So, there you have it. You believe this meme coin is going to change your life. You jump in. You might jump in at the top, or maybe when it's almost over, the next thing it drops and you get rugged. And by rugged, I mean the rug pulled out from beneath you and you lose your money. Well,
yeah, I think the observation
incredible.
that you made was really kind of apt, that a lot of the celebrities and political figures that have been connected to these meme coins are mostly people who are not very experienced or knowledgeable.
Right.
Perhaps they're just paid to be ambassadors,
right.
And all of that.
But that means they make money from it.
No, but of course they
somehow,
make money.
even
but
if they don't know about the technology.
They make money, yeah. Perhaps they didn't check to see how is it going to end. It may affect your brand.
Right. It should be a negative for your brand.
Exactly,
right.
Exactly. And I believe that with time, some of these precautions will be taken and maybe laws and rules set.
The regulators,
yes.
I'm sure they're watching on the sideline.
All right, Laddie, thank you so much. So that's it on the program today. Thank you so much for being a part of Business Incorporated. We hope to do it again with you tomorrow. Of course, 10 a.m., that's where we start from, Business Morning, and then we're back 1 p.m. also. But I'll see you tonight. I don't like this red color. I hope the NGX doesn't continue with this red.